Someone rents a donkey. Ultimately, again, the renter, right, the renter is permitted to go out and put his clothing, suso, libinasa, his flask, mizono, social saga, and the food that he needs to eat. These are the things that he's allowed to put on the donkey. Can't be able to entrust any more of the donkey. Chamar ma'aki, the donkey driver can say, no, too much only my donkey. Chamar, maniach alas orin, the teben, and mizono, social sahayom. The donkey driver himself has the ability to put on a donkey, barley, right, straw, and ultimately, again, the food that he needs for that day. More than that, you can't say to the owner, sorry, you can't put more than that on that, so compromise myself. The heat deluxe in the market. What do you see from here? You see from here that, again, a flask is included in what a renter is allowed to put on the donkey. So what's the shot? And Rabbi in the heat, the Lord in so again, you're right. A renter has a right to put a flask on the donkey. Watch this. If he didn't bring a flask, right? So if he didn't bring a flask, so does the renter then say to the owner, you know what, if there's no flask, so really you should knock off a little bit of a rental on that. Of course not. So in other words, it's permitted, but at the end of the day, it's inconsequential. So because it's inconsequential, how can rent my donkey on the donkey? And he puts his flask in GUINNESS on there, that's inconsequential vis-a-vis the rest of the rental, and therefore the rental fee is paid. So that's one side. So if you want to just go back and ask us on this price, what's this? If ultimately, again, I will say now, the price says,
what up, Miss Aquarius? What's good, girl?
If there's food readily available along the journey, and ultimately you're going to watch it,
Word, girl.
There shouldn't be able to stop the donkey driver from putting on the
That's right.
What's the case? The case is where you're able to get food from one leg of the journey to the next.
That's right.
It's a to-do.
Oh, 100%.
So that's part of the job, like to go through the trouble to go through the renter, that's not the expectation. Therefore, the renter is committed to take all the food for the entire journey for the rest. But ultimately, the donkey driver himself is only committed to put the amount of food that he needs to get in from one leg of the journey to the next leg of the journey where food is going to be available. The father of Rabbi Acha, the son of Rabbi. Right, the father of Rabbi Acha, the son of Rabbi is Rabbi. Okay, so Ika on the base, Havashafek meaning Kamala or Bega. This is an interesting case. She was pouring wine for Obligation. What is this? First actually on 65. So ultimately, Rabbi Ika was a wine seller. He was selling, again, this is his wine. So he's selling wine to the apple. The guy from Moke Fabio Shine, we came down to Fabio smokes him. So normally, again, when they sell wine, we also sell the barrels of wine. Okay, I mean, in the Makti, Ika go if you just shot yourself. Careful, all the fellows, Mistake, Bahen, Bad, Mashu, Mistake, Ika, Havashafet, Lubini, Goofy, Shalak, Fumino, Siyar, Visit, Ego. So what happens? It's very interesting. So I thought, but Ika, the rich PhD, that. So what he would do is he would go ahead and take his wine, portion his barrels into the apple's wine skin. Okay. So the Gemara tells us, "We'll come along with him. But also, the apple of the Nagla, the Yoiv lay good say so ultimately again, based on the way you're reading it now, so you take the wine across the river, give it to them, and ultimately again he would keep the barrels as part of his language. So again, that was exported to the wine skin, transported by right, transported, and he would get to keep the barrels. Also, I'm going to Rabbi. Him told the Rabbi about this practice. Amalei, sweet katara, shekere katara. What's the problem? Rabbi said, Rabbi Pashtus, what the problem is remember, once that wine is poured into the wineskins, the apple, it becomes like standing on Yayin Nessa. So they were bothered by this because isn't ultimately again the Pika who wants to continue the existence ultimately again of this Yayin Nessa. It's got to go across the river as well. Which Rabbi says it's not a problem because when but because lots of the Kiyumo, the Lomitsu, oh, right. But then he has to transport the wineskins across the river. So ultimately, he doesn't want the wineskins break, and he's going to be in trouble. So he wants to continue the existence of the wineskins, right? The Masni Ba'adai, he made the condition ultimately again was that Allah if it breaks, it's on him. He has no responsibility. Inami. Maisu Pisad Kibahadai, or they brought it back up in times as well. This way again, if for some reason the oil that he was pouring into broke, he'd have a backup. Kama Avalo Mahafa, to that our piece. 1 second, don't overcome now because after point is the ones he's transporting them across the river. Isn't there a problem now that he's helping with the sufficient transportation of the island itself? I'm related to the he arranged transportation for them before the actual war transportation. Okay, so if you arrange transportation was done already beforehand, therefore he's not doing anything after the Yainesa. Inami to be key to that future, or he made them quickly again ropes with like knots and boats with sea ropes and to take these guys across. Either way, part of it is that made an arrangement beforehand for transportation. In other words, how did he work out transportation after the wine had been poured into the wineskins? Nothing on the US level problem. And essentially, he arranged it by working out with the boatsmen or by giving them like a knotted rope, which I guess not, but he did not have to be involved with that. Okay, one of the Rashi's on also mobile. It says in this, Yain Nessa Shnafa Gabi. What's the interesting piece? What happens if Yain Nessa spills on grapes? So what's that? Well, you can just wash them off and the grapes on the top. Then how you move the polls the grape creates cracks. So we have to be concerned with some of the wine got in Jaffa Agabe to Agabe to so ultimately the Yain Nessa fell on figs or on grapes. Yesh one benosim kan possible. If the wine refuses taste, possible. Says, the mice of the Baitis Benjamin, one time have the Baitis Benjamin, shading grogos this swing. There's been grogos. Now, actually turns out that grogos are dry dates, dry figs, and what happened? And it's kind of barrel grogos. There's enough of that and a pork on the dry figs. Shalom Chachamim, they asked Chachamim, get to them. Chachamim said that the figs are Zach, well, this is the rule. Kosher Bahanos and Nosi Campus. Anytime you guess it, Bahanos and Nosi anytime the INS did not increase taste, ultimately again it'll be what's an example of when something falls onto something and it doesn't increase taste? Kigon, Chomet, Shinafa Agabe Grease. Ultimately again, like vinegar that falls onto split lentils. Apparently, I understand. My solicitor, the story of Titus Ben Zonin seems to contradict the halacha like the point, right? Again, right? The Mishnah said that if one fell on Ta'imim or Tmos, right? And therefore, again, it's flavor, it's also, it doesn't need flavor, it's more. Then it says, it's not right. So he had tried things, again, cracks, things, I'm just reading that the one. When you do not need it. So what's going on? Yeah? There's lots of technology. in those incomes down to mutter. But the mission is to say something. When you're dealing with wine that pours over figs, so here's what we look at. Did the wine infuse taste into the figs or dates or not? If it did, then it's us. If the taste is detrimental, then ultimately again, it's mutter. And then, in nice manner, the Bible maybe grows the ונשאר בחודש של יין נסך ונופל על גביהם. It was a little obvious right that happened. Jonah was taking dried figs on a barrel of yine נסך broke on over the stairs. And bought myself לפני חכמים and ultimately again the Chachamim said that it's mutter. The Chachamim said that it's mutter, so ultimately again, what's the logic there? So apparently the Chachamim felt that in this particular case, the yayin nesach refuses detrimental flavor, and therefore what Chachamim is pero who can't defeat the enough already like this in the yayin nesach. Shani Rabbi Lezavun wa Olikot. What's the interesting reason? So it's a pile of wheat, and Yayin Nessa fell on the wheat, or on the wheat, broke right, this broke on the wheat, and Rabbi permitted to sell the wheat to an Akum, to a non-Jew. Okay, you can't sell to a Jew, but you can sell to a non-Jew. Okay, so the Gemara says, 1 second. Begesh and Bokilayim, there's only to the legal comment. But Lo Yasan Amar Das Takol. Listen to this. You have this is very interesting. You have an article of clothing. And let's say it's a linen clothing, and there's one wolf there. You lost track where the wolf found it. Oh, what's the law? Like, in other words, you're concerned that the garment is sharpness. So let's say, so what's the law? Oh, the law is like this. Right, you don't know where the wolf thread is. So the Gemara says you're not allowed. When Rashi says, what are you concerned about? That you're going to sell to an Akum, and the Akum is going to turn around and sell it to a Jew. You know, not with any malicious intent. That's an ardasa. You can't use that as a saddle for you. Sitting on it, but also being benefiting from this. I'm sorry, about also Capricorn is you can make it, you can use it for burial shrouds for a Muslim. Since a mace doesn't have an obligation in this, therefore it's okay if these burial shrouds are shot in this hole. So that's the only one of my opinion. Why can't you sell this garment with lost Dilma Asi Lezavuni is we're afraid that maybe we sell it to a Jew. Oh. Ultimately, again, shouldn't we be concerned over here that simply if you have this pile of meat and the yayin nesach how can you sell it to an Akum? You don't have to be concerned that ultimately you're going to sell it to a Jew. Other Shara, the Tinu, Paninu, or the Zabuna of the Kohabim, Shalom, Yisrael is ultimately rubber retracted. And also, right. Rubber retracted, or rubber said, you can grind up the wheat, you can make it into bread, and you can sell it to an Akum, not in the presence of Jews. In other words, essentially, you can sell it to an Akum as long as you're a no Jews. Because he saw Fabian masculine all they go having others that make you reality for something. It's a partial happy she saw that. The time this is if you're a Jew or what's going to happen. You know, Ruben's going to start seeing you selling a loaf of bread to a sell to an Akum ultimately again as long as there are no other Jews. Now, why don't you pretend that you sell it well? So remember, that's Hasan. So remember again, bread from an Akum has its own set of halachos and its own set of halachos. There was a stop over here for today. Right after everyone for the tremendous weeks that this was to go for all of you. So I'm going to do another Shabbos and beautiful Shabbos. I will say a great sponsor for some TV return this morning to give by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning's share to fame. Our annual Common sponsor, Children's University of dedicated publishing Russians this year is a Swiss from service levels for Am Yisrael. Common sponsors for the month of Av. remember raising in honor of their parents. Israel raising, Dina raising, and Rosenzweig in memory of Stanley Rosenzweig and the Rabbi. Or we could learn sponsors Dr. Evan K. Wolf, Commissioner of the Yard Site of Dr. Wolf's father, Cyrus Wolf, Shalom, then Steve Hirsch and the Rabbi, Nathan and Beth Adler in memory of their father, Ben Adler, Robert Baruch Mordecai Ben Moreno Ravnas. The only sponsors for today: Cherry Applebaum, memory of his beloved mother, Rosalind Applebaum, Russell Bass, and I. The American Rasam Torah, all of the Mishal Savin Aliyah, families in the family, all those who need their food, shepherd, total babies, for this three successful fall of Nasi. And as with that, let us begin. Today's that is Sarah Tower, 6 demos on the days, 63B, and we are picking up 2, 4, 6, 7 lines up from the bottom. Yes, so Rav Nachman Be'ula Ba'adim Ba'Papis. So again, and here by Ami, the sitting with them, and the Marshal Yosef, the Kabbalah, my bride, he asked the following question. Listen to the fascinating question. Safra Lishbar B'Yayin Nesach. What is the halacha if an akim hires a Jew to smash the barrels of yayin nesach? Right? So, okay, imagine this akim comes over to Ruben. So, Ruben, I'm going to pay you $50 an hour. Do me a favor, smash these barrels of yayin nesach. Mahu, what is the halacha? Is the Jew allowed to receive or to accept to keep the wages from this law? Well, it's remember again, in yesterday's daf, we were dealing with the concept of funds or income that is generated from what may or may not be permitted activity or dealing with items that themselves may be usher by us. Here, the uncle is asking me to do something with the INSF, but he's asking me to destroy the INSF, and he's going to pay me for it. So am I allowed to keep those proceeds? The Gemara says, "No, what's that about?" And then gave the rose the kimo also. So this is very interesting. On one hand, I want the existence of the INS. Now, why do I want the existence of the INS? Because interesting enough, I want the existence of the INS. Because I want it, therefore, maybe that makes the process vertical. Look at Rashi for a moment. When you have Rina Kiva, he lines up from the bottom of Rashi. The Yisrael said, "Don't say the Jew actually want the existence of these barrels. Shalom Yishtabu Akshamei land. I don't want Reuben doesn't want them to break on their own. Hachi Shavu, he tells Tanasir. So did he say that since the Jew actually wants, and this is interesting to think about it this way, right? The Jew actually wants the Yayin Nesach to remain in existence. I don't want it to break on its own. So therefore, maybe that's considered these proceeds from Yayin Nesach. And therefore, again, it's us. On the other hand, this is the destruction of the INS, destruction of the result. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. Sure, I want the Balsam in existence, but again, ultimately, to destroy all the Zara is a good thing, and therefore the proceeds, ultimately, again, should be committed. Fascinating challenge. Oh, no, nothing. So Nachman says, Yishvar the Kol HaBracha. And Nachman says, no, take the job, choose, take the job, get the money, and tell HaBracha you should be blessed. You have the opportunity to go and you will do that. That is a good thing. Take the money and go. So you must let me see others. Let's bring it to this sentence. Ain't let's say again. Plants right? Kaline is forbidden mixture. So wheat, we had this actually just 2 days ago. Wheat and let's say, for example, wheat and the great points. That's the parenthetical. Any forbidden nature. So if an open problem is planting Kelayim, I as a Jew can't go ahead and assist in the party. Openly like you can leave the seat in your shirt. You can't do that. How about son of power? 64. How about open what can I do? I can uproot, right? I can uproot killing. That I am allowed to do because I should להשליך על העיבוד באף of below to be too much like the Akim let's say Akim hires and then do me a favor, I tried to line that again. He's asking for trying to line you up, right? But let's say again, he asks me to uproot it. I am allowed to do that even though I'm getting get paid for working with Shalim, right? And I want the existence of Shalim because it provides him a uproot on their own, and he's not going to come. So the Gemara says. So it appears from here this is to support the Nachman. But Nachman says you are allowed to go ahead and benefit financially from the forbidden instruction of the item, even though you by definition want it. You want to be the one who destroys it, so you get paid for it as opposed to being destroyed on its own. So when it says Savua, second line from the top 64a, Savua Haman, who's the thing? He said, yes, you do. So you see the Amar, I'm explaining the Kalayan Locus, and that it's the whole in general. Not only is there a prohibition to go ahead and facilitate the growth of children, but you can't do anything that sustains them. So for example, it actually points out over here. So let's say someone else comes to the client, right? The apple man client, and the apple asks me to put up a fence around the client. And the Akiva says also, why? Because the act of putting up a fence, by definition, has nothing to do with the actual plant itself. Nevertheless, it is going to be up in front of the Akiva. So here we go. I'm not facing that. The fact that means covering the seeds with dirt. So not facing the cover with dirt. And look at you get about this, right? Because again, that's kind of come up. Because there you're actively or directly participating in the plan. The Kiva says, "After that the Kiva says, even if you do anything to sustain the plan, for example, put up a fence around the lion, that's going to be problematic as well." So versus Micah and Rabbi Akiva. Where does Rabbi Akiva get that from? What's it like? Mukra, such cover Tizra Kilayim. Pasuk says, do not plant Kilayim in your field. Imi Elazarea, I don't know the prohibition of planting. Nekayim in how do I know that I'm not even allowed to do something to sustain the actual growth itself? Like even like putting up a fence. Amalomar, low Kilayim. Alright, so let's say, so it's interesting over here. The Gemara is making a little bit of a play on words. A little bit of a play on words. So again, the Gemara is actually kind of slicing the house like low Kilayim. You can't do anything that ultimately, again, enables the existence of Kilayim, even if it's not directly involved with the actual plant itself, but just something that sustains it, that's going to be us. Ilu, Gemara says, the Ilu, the Me'ute Tifla Shari, it ultimately the prohibition ultimately is doing something that sustains the Kilayim. What about if somebody's willing to pay me to uproot the Kilayim? So the Pashtos, the Gemara says, not necessarily. No, it doesn't be that thing of Rabbi Akiva. Rather, Haman, who's the thing? Is this Rabbanon? It's Rabbanon. Rabbanon might be okay if he's really not shot. No, but it's not true. According to the Rabbanon, this is Rabbanon. Rabbanon even wanted to put up a fence, right? Because Rabbanon only Rabbi Akiva. Rabbanon told nothing you can do plant it, but actively do something that facilitates the growth of the plant itself. Some type of like supporting activity, like putting up a fence they hold is mutter. So if putting up a fence is mutter, you can get paid for that, then certainly then you can get paid for uprooting the fence. I'll show you that's not going to be a problem. To which the Gemara says, Hafam asking on this very interesting, what's the case? So we are the Ka'avid Bechina. Oh, interesting. Where ultimately, again, I am uprooting the Kilayim for free. Yaakov asked me to do it, and I'm doing it for free. So what's the problem? Watch this. Rabbi Huda Amar, Yitin Lahem Maknasinam Asr. Ultimately, Rabbi Huda is of the opinion that halacha l'maisa, you are not allowed to do a favor for him. Like we actually have some meaning of halachas. Our lo sechanim, all my fault is what lo sechanim means. Like this, don't compliment them, don't give them. Someone can't ask them for free. Even if the free favor is destruction of avodah zarah, you still can't do it. Which the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda, Nishma Rabbi Akiva, Ra. Now, the fact that you're saying it's not according to Rabbi Yehuda, sounds like they're according to Rabbi Akiva. It's not permitted. And Rabbi Yehuda also litin ha'matnasina. Aval le'ute tifla shakir. The Gemara says, no. According to Rabbi Yehuda says it's true. You can't do a favor so you can give a free gift. You can't do a favor for an act. But to do something to uproot avodah zarah, that's absolutely permitted. That's a good. That's of objective benefit. I have Rabbi Akiva Nami. Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva. Mekayin Kilayim Lo. Yeah. And the Ute Tifla Shakir. Approach to the position of Kilayim. They're not only planted. Not only the actual planting itself, but you can't even put up a fence to sustain it. These are the people with agree to uproot Kilayim, to get rid of Yisr, to get rid of Rabbi, is absolutely permitted, and you can get paid for that from the applicant. For which the Gemara says, the Su Lo Muzi, there is nothing else to go ahead and discuss. That's what it's great. This phrase, Su Lo Muzi, this is like the Talmudic equivalent of like a microphone. The Su Lo, that's it, we're done. There's nothing more to discuss. So also, it's very interesting. So what this means is ultimately, now let's go full circle. How did we start this all started by the case of an Akum wants to break through the barrels of GUINNESS. He asks me, he wants to hire me a Jew to go and break. He's willing to pay me $50 a barrel. Great. So am I allowed to do it or not? So remember, on one hand, he could say no, because therefore that means I want the continued existence of the GUINNESS, and I'm benefiting from avodah zarah. Do it and cover Allah. If it involves the destruction of avodah zarah, or for that matter, a prohibited item, even though, yes, I do want the continued existence of the GUINNESS, so I get that. I want to uproot it. But nevertheless, I am permitted to go ahead and do these activities, get paid for them, and keep the proceeds. Zara, the destruction of prohibition ultimately is a good thing. And as National says, you get paid and Tavo Allah. Incredible. I will say there is a kind of a part of Western society, the mindset is, right, just the general approach to living in integrated society. We should take an approach to living in. Yes, it's not your obligation to be the world, nor is it your place to stand in judgment of everyone else's lifestyle choices or everything else. Live and let live. That has to be our approach to living in integrated society. On the other hand, it's also teaching us this idea that evil should be allowed to take root within our world. And when there's something that is evil, it has to be uprooted. When there's something that is evil, it has to be broken. When there's something that is evil, it has to be smashed. It has to be destroyed. Because if you let evil take root, then it spreads. And unfortunately, it becomes the norm. And sometimes life between evil ultimately again become incredibly burdened. That's right. That's why the Nachman uses the flush enough